This is my favorite part. They always come in slow, and then all of a sudden there's like 500 people. Hello, everybody. I feel like everyone knows the drill so far. All of a sudden here we see San Diego. Hello from Toronto. They know the drill, Kai. That's the way it always goes. Excited to have everyone back. Settle in. We still have a couple of minutes before we go into everything and have a bit of fun here today. Let us know where you're coming from. Let us know how you're doing as well. We hope everyone is good. As per normal, in Toronto here is absolutely beautiful. Beautiful weather. Just don't really want to be inside today, but you know, that's what has to happen. See Florida, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts. Hello, hello. Welcome back. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. If you're rejoining us, please let us know where you're coming from and that's your first time with us today. This is exciting for us. Kind of a little bit different how we're going to go about it today. We're going to be talking about diversity and inclusion here, and very hot topic right now, very important topic as well. And I saw England. I don't know if it was New England. It went by so quickly on there. But if you're from England today, isn't it like, oh, I guess it's not too late. But welcome. Settle in. We're going to get rolling in a minute or two here. Just so everyone knows, Carmen is definitely on the chat. You're actually going to hear from her a little bit later. I'm going to do some intros here. Our special guests, aka our Hi Mama team. Actually, I'm very, very excited to be having both these ladies work with me today and share some hosting. It's going to be a lot of fun. Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, Jersey City, Chicago, Illinois. I see everybody there. Lima. I don't know. I didn't get all of that, Lima. But I'm sure if you're coming all the way from there, I don't know what time it is. I don't do time zones, but very good. Hello, Markham, Ontario. Hope everyone's going well. Toronto's about to go into stage 3. Hallelujah. Also a little nervous at the same time. But you know, it's what goes on. Hopefully everyone's doing all right where they are, staying safe and healthy. Hello, Newfoundland. I see you there. All right, minute or two more. Settle on in. We're going to get rocking and rolling here. Just a moment. We're going to start off with a little quick poll. Actually, I'm going to get that going out right now. So you're going to see it come on. I just want to get a better idea how familiar you are with Hi Mama. Please let us know. You should see it pop up there for you. Going to give you 2 or 3 minutes so you can let us know if you're hearing about us for the first time, if you're a customer with us, fantastic. If you've heard about us, but you've never really gotten any further, it's all good though. We just wanted to get an idea about where people are coming from, background-wise, give us a better idea of, you know, the demographics. It's kind of really neat, actually. So we'll be able to see in a few minutes here, minute or two more. I'm going to publish this up and then we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of it all. Interesting from my side. I get to see the results ahead, guys. This is kind of really cool. Very excited to have everybody here. Hello, Mexico. I was talking to Mexico last night. I wasn't specifically talking to Mexico, but friends of ours who are from Mexico live across the pond now. And it was really nice to just see with them, catch up, make sure they were doing all right these days. So, all right, I'm going to end the poll now just to give you guys a better idea of what we've got going on. So we've got, it should be able to see it, but just make sure if you can't, we got about 45% are customers. We've got 32% have heard of us roughly. And first time hearing about us, 22%. Very, very cool. I'm very excited everybody is here. Dive into it all. I have Kaya here with me. Carmen will probably pop on, but if you've never heard of me, if this is your first time, I am the community ambassador here at Hi Mama, and on chat I have lovely Carmen, who is actually going to be hosting with us today, as well as Kaya. Kaya, welcome back. I'm excited to
Hello, thank you so
have.
much.
I'm
Yes,
very
happy to
excited.
be here.
It's so nice to have the partial ECE crew. Sorry, Carmen, but Kaya's also an educator on the background as well. So questions as they come through, guys. Ping Carmen, ping Kaya, ping myself. We're all going to be kind of talking a little bit here today. So a little different. So I'm excited to dive in. Ladies, ready to get the ball rolling?
Yep, I'll be on chat.
Do it.
Awesome. So as per normal, just in case you don't know this part already, but I'm sure you do if you've been with us before. We are not the faces of legal advice. I apologize. We are not. This is not the face you want to consult if you need any sort of legal advice. So at the end of the day, we hope that you take away, tips, tricks, ideas, things like that you can use at your center. If you're ever looking for any advice, obviously, please seek out the right people, whether they be a financial advisor, whether they be a legal advisor, whether they be regulations officer, whoever it is you're looking for, just make sure you seek out the right person. Highly recommend. Okay. Some of the things that we're looking for here today is we're going to be talking about, obviously, we're talking about diversity, we're going to be talking about inclusion, but the three sort of big things that we want you to take away while we're talking is we're going to be diving in a little bit more into race, into gender, and into ability and the importance behind those, promoting those things in your classroom, having it in your head as an educator or director, whoever you are with us today, and just getting to know yourself a little bit better and understanding, the things that impact you will impact your classroom. So I'm really excited to chat a little bit more. Let's start off with like what diversity inclusion looks like in the center, and especially in your classroom. It's a really big piece right now. Diversity itself in the classroom, and many of you educators know this, and many of you understand like diversity is not really based off of holidays. Some people do think that, but at the same side, it's not based around that. You want to look at the deeper level of it, the understanding of the learning, the cultural beliefs of it. You want children to see themselves represented throughout your center. A very really big thing that actually brought up in a recent activity Hi Mama did as a company, talking a little bit more about diversity inclusion, was the idea that pictures and things around your schools, and taking a step back, seeing those things in the classroom as well as throughout the school. So an example can be, let's take much older school, let's say hundreds of years, maybe it was an all boys school at one point or an all girls school or something like that, prestigious school of any kind or not. But there's a lot of figures that they represent on their walls, whether they be principals or whether they be directors, etc., like that. And if the children aren't seeing anything that remind them of themselves, so let's say they were all male, or they were all people who are Caucasian or something like that, then they won't start to see themselves as represented. And it's a huge piece as children grow to see themselves as capable. So that's just kind of something to keep in the mind there. Materials, tons of materials are out there these days to help build an understanding of the differences. It's just really cool to have a better selection. Obviously possible. We know things right now are a little up in the air on funding and things like that, but making sure you're investing when you do come time and we do get back to a regular state of life, that you make the right decisions there. Big thing too on the educator side is that you want to help minimize the stereotypes and get rid of them they're when they're not true. So you don't want to impact anything that way on things that aren't true. So this is important. It's hugely, hugely important, especially right now. It was important before this, and that's a huge thing. Being able, children, we know this, they learn through observation, they learn through their interactions, but being able to provide that safe environment for them and being able to, talk about race, especially talk about gender, talking about abilities, especially when it comes to children who have disabilities. You want to give them a safe place to talk about all of these things as well as practice all these things, and that's going to be probably my biggest takeaway. When you have diversity in the classroom, it's going to it's going to allow for relationship growth. Children are going to see other children's, they're going to see their different capabilities, their abilities, and by exposing them to different skill levels and practicing all of these things, it's going to allow for them to grow into a well-rounded person, which is, I think, our aim for every educator out there right now. So the role of educators is huge. A lot of children spend a lot of time in our care. And that's a huge piece right now. And I want to say that, like, at the end of the day, make sure you are chatting with mom and dad. Like, obviously, you want to, and we're going to talk much further, but make sure that you do have mom and dad in this loop, and they also understand that the environment you're creating is respectful and is full of kindness and in regards to building that inclusion and that diversity. So you want to facilitate. That's the huge win. That's all we do, folks, is at the end of the day, we are the ones who facilitate, create play, we inject learning into everything the children are doing. Okay. So we model that. Everyone, we all model being able to respect people's capabilities, their abilities, all of that. We are their number one model next to mom and dad at home. And we want to make sure to do the right implants at the same time. This is a huge piece. Checking your bias, though. I know my personal bias. I have them. I'm not afraid of them. But on the same side, take some time to understand what your biases are, why you have them. If it's something that you don't understand of how to uninstill it from yourself, don't worry about it. Just understand that you don't want it to impact another child's learning or another person's understanding. You keep it to yourself at that end. But on the same side, ease into it. If you do want to learn a little bit more, learn a little bit more about what your own biases are. Don't overwhelm yourself, because that's where I think a lot of people they take the wrong path because of that, and then they don't end up learning anything. So take the time to ease into it. Be aware of your communication, especially if you're talking to somebody who maybe represents your bias. Don't be afraid to just check yourself at the door and try not to label. This one's a big one, and I think we do it just instinctively some days. And I think the biggest example I can give you is, let's say a child is moving into your room, whether they be brand new or whether from a different school, or they're moving up from a different room or coming to visit, whatever it may be. If you have a teacher who's telling you, like a different teacher, different rooms telling you, let's say it's a troublemaker. Well, I'm just going to use he for lack of a better term right now. He's a troublemaker. And, you start to prejudge that child already, and you don't really take it to a level of learning a little bit more, because you already feel like you've been filled in on that child. So therefore you start to label that child in advance. And I want to say, take the time, learn that child. They may have some behavioral issues, but at the end of the day, if you start labeling them, the other children are going to do the same. So we don't want that. No educator wants that, and I know we don't do it intentionally. Getting a little personal. This is me myself here on the far left. I always bring my brother into everything, because when he's older, you got to do it. I'm probably only about a year here, so I've changed a lot over my lifetime. Carmen in the middle. Honestly, Carmen, I just love the picture of you. And Kaya, when I saw this, I just died. It was fantastic. Background on me, and I know the girls will probably talk a little bit more about themselves when they get a little closer to, is that primarily growing up, I won't lie, I grew up in a very, very, very Caucasian community. There wasn't really anybody of different color, of different backgrounds, of different ethnicities. It was something where if you did see somebody who was different, then it was a question. But on the same side, I had parents who very much appreciated different cultures, different ethnicities, different beliefs, and they encouraged me to learn more. And because of that, I think I have a little bit more of an open view. I do need to learn more, though, and I'm not afraid to totally admit that. So it's a bit on me. I want to jump into a little bit about race before I hand it off to Carmen here in a couple of minutes, because race is a huge thing in the classroom. Race is really big right now. But I think it's also going under the radar just a little bit in some cases. Talking about it right now, it's not something we should have started now. It's something we should have started earlier. So obviously it's inevitable. You will be talking about race. You will be talking about people who have different colors of skin. So don't be scared. Just be prepared. Talk about it with your parents. Get an idea of what their thoughts are. Talk about it with other teachers, as well as what is the best way to implement it within your room. Okay? Take every teaching moment possible to talk about race, because it's not something you can start and stop talking about. It doesn't get finished in one sentence. It's a lifetime of learning. Okay? give them the foundation. You want them to build more, and as well model on that language, model on, what they should be saying. Don't worry, children are going to make mistakes. That's how we learn like that from adults, and I think we tend to get a little bit more upset than the children do. But anyways, talking about those appropriate teachings, talk about race. This is kind of how I took away from a couple of readings I did. Talk about race like you talk about safety. When we talk about safety procedures, whether it be crossing the road, whether it be riding your bike, whether it be right now washing your hands, take the time to talk about race in the same context with a lot of ease. You talk about it, you practice it, you demonstrate it, you let them practice it, you let them repeat it, and just build that better understanding over time. Scaffolding all. We all do it, we all teach it, we just do it naturally. Okay. Set some goals to promote some inclusivity in your classroom, and whether that be introducing new language. At the same time, you're going to role model that. You're going to help them role model those behaviors too. So, going to jump here. 5 things. 5 things to help think about it, whether it be yourself, whether it be helping another teacher, whether it be within the children's minds. 5 things, because I think this goes across the board, as well as parents. So don't be afraid to point out race, but don't be afraid as well to point out the bad things that are about race, because we have to learn. We're in such a multi-ethnic, that's the tongue twister at all, society now. You want to be able to children to notice the good things and the bad things. It's not a bad thing to point out. Okay. Children, like I mentioned, they're going to say probably the most racist things. I had an older cousin who grew up similar to me, very, very Caucasian community, riding a bus and she was probably only like 3 at the time. I remember my uncle telling me this story, and she saw a person of color for the first time in her life. And she asked her mother why that person was chocolate. So, it's going to happen, but at the same side, there's no reason to panic about these things. Take that teaching moment. Take that moment to build more understanding, point out similarities, point out strengths. Yes, people are different, but we're all same on the inside. Okay. Avoid those labeling. I kind of talked about that a little bit earlier, but labeling just in general, do your best to find the right language. Just use people's names. That's probably the best thing to use. Obviously, you have to find out if it's a stranger. Maybe don't approach a stranger, but you know what I mean? Find out what the best way is to, call that person, because that's probably the most respectful thing to do. Okay. And practice. Children need practice. We need practice. It's how it all goes. When it comes to in your classroom itself, do as much as you can to promote races of all kind. And as well, there's so many things out there. These are just a few. I believe we have a list going that's going to be sent out with this as well. I know Kaya did a fabulous blog post. But these guys, The Day You Begin was probably one of my favorite books when I was in the classroom. But these are just some great books, whether you're doing circle time, Carmen, I see we have previous webinar around the world. Oh, the cookbook. Yeah, that was a great one. These are some awesome resources. I saw all of these on Indigo. The Skin You Live In is one I have not read myself personally, but I thought it might be a really good pick on that side. The other thing you can do is talking a little bit more about like resource wise, do as much as you can, especially bringing in people's cultures and right now the food one is really hard. That's probably my favorite of all of them. Kaya's like, oh yeah. If you can bring in multicultural food into your center, hair like mine is excellent, is what I'm just seeing in the chat. Fantastic. But if you can, obviously the food one is also hard because of people's allergies and things like that. But personally, I'd love to travel. And when I travel on my stomach. So that's how I go. Do as many things as you can. Multicolored dolls, papers, skin colors, because when the children are drawing, they are going to draw what represents them. So just to make sure to provide that for them, hanging those family pictures across the center and making sure that they can see themselves. A couple of great little songs that I found. One Love by Bob Marley is surprisingly inclusive. Where Love Is, Black Eyed Peas. Like I tried to do like a couple of different genres but All You Need Is Love, the Beatles. These are some great picks if you just want to have it on. Lady Gaga. I love Lady Gaga. I'm sorry, that was just me, but Born This Way is fantastic. as well here at Hi Mama. Tons of things happening. We're doing our best to support, to have as many things out there, resources for you guys. I know lovely Kaya did up these activities. We worked together, create these guys, but a couple of great activities that's on our website to help promote some diversity, to help really take into mind the M&M one I love, because we're all different on the outside, but same on the inside. And I love chocolate. So I'm on my stomach, guys. And the hair one is a huge one. And I thought it was amazing to incorporate the fact that children also do a lot of labeling based off of what their hair is like. So it's a really cool piece there. Please check it out. Carmen's got it in the chat. There's tons of other activities and that there as well, but we just wanted to highlight these few. With all of that said, I want to bring on the lovely Carmen. I believe she's next up here. And I'm going to just disappear, but let her take it away for a little while. This is exciting, Carmen. Usually this is not what happens. So
yeah, usually I'm just in the background, but today we decided to kind of split the work 3 ways and talk about the 3 different pieces between myself, Kaya, and Ria. So a little bit of background on me here. I actually grew up in Malaysia, so it's a very multicultural country. And because of that environment, it kind of made us think about diversity from a very young age. And we really noticed that everyone was different, but it didn't really matter to us. So I'm going to talk about the gender piece of today's webinar. And in my research, I actually found this Lego ad that was published in 1981, so almost 30 years ago now. And on it, it says, "Have you ever seen anything like it? Not what she's made, but how proud it's made her." And this really struck a chord with me because no one determines another person's gender, and it is a very personal and fluid way that children kind of discover themselves through. And the main takeaway, like if you want to take anything away from this session, is all children are capable, and we don't want to pigeonhole them into what girls can do or boys can do based on their gender. So I put together a few pointers for thinking and talking about gender with young kids. So first, we need to educate ourselves, because gender is something that is a little bit sensitive depending on where you're from. And we as adults should learn the difference between gender identity and gender expression, as well as birth assigned sex, which is your body, which is not gender. And the first place to start is to explore our own feelings on the subject and come to a place where we can be neutral. So not shaming children for being curious about their body or asking questions about what girls and boys should or shouldn't do. And also, just as Ria said, with talking about race, listening and listening and listening to the children is key here, because finding the teaching moments in the conversation with the kiddos is so key, and using that to talk about what gender is and what that means. This is an awesome image here to think about gender. So gender identity is how someone thinks about themselves, and whether they are feminine or whether they're female or male or other. So it's very fluid. Gender expression is more so how they dress and what colors they love to wear and how they present themselves. And sex assigned at birth is based on your body, whether you're female or male or other. Some people are also, born kind of in between. So this is really key for us as adults to come back to, and especially talking to young children about their gender. When we're looking at kids growing up, here is how children develop their gender identity, and I've bucketed them by age. So from 2 to 3 years old, boys and girls start to be aware of the physical difference between them. So they're like, oh my goodness, I'm a boy and you're a girl and we're different. That happens at 2 to 3 years old. When they come into 4 to 5 years old, sorry, Dilshad, kiddos know, we'll use children. It's something that we like say really casually at work here. But yeah, so for the children, 4 to 5 years old is when they start being aware of gender stereotypes and expectations. So this is something that us as society, this is where we can have a big impact, because gendered colors, like girls have pink and boys have blue, we can neutralize that and say, all children have availability to pick whatever color they want, and it doesn't matter what their gender is. Girls can play with trucks and boys can play dress up. Like, this is an area where kids are exploring and learning about who they want to be, what inspires them. And the key thing here is to empower them to discover themselves. And then when they move into the 6 and 7 year old bracket, when they're moving out of the preschool age group, that's when they begin to mellow out and reduce the way that they're expressing their gender, as they become more confident that they're recognized for who they are. And for children that are kind of more fluid on the spectrum, this is potentially around the age where they can develop social anxiety if they feel like they are not being recognized for who they really are inside. So as adults, to create a really inclusive space, being mindful of the choice we're giving kids is very, very key. So how do we talk to young children about gender? Curiosity is a great way to start. And it is definitely a great starting point to have a conversation. So if a child is asking you a question about, why does a woman have boobs, or why does someone look that way, or if you see a trans person and they're curious, a great way to avoid feeling stumped is to ask the child back the question, why do you think so? And use that as a way to navigate the conversation. And also grounding the conversation in respect is so key. So being adults too, back to my first point, checking where we come from and our own biases towards another human being, seeing them as a neutral human being that is strong and powerful in their own way. That is really the base of where we can come from in this conversation. So it might seem really small, and we have about 1,200 of you guys here. All of us, we're building the foundation for young kids to become inclusive adults. And I don't know about you guys, but that is so special and such an amazing responsibility to have, in my opinion. And talking to young kids about gender roles and stereotypes. So the goal isn't to really tell the child what to think or what to feel, but to encourage them to form their own opinions in a safe and inclusive space. So I like to think about it as it's all about choice. So they get a choice with toys. Girls and boys can pick from the same buckets, as well as books and songs and activities. And we've actually compiled a list of different books to get you guys started. So Julian is a Mermaid is a really cute one that I was looking into just now, that's written by Jessica Love, about a boy who is fascinated by mermaids, as well as Jamie is Jamie. I Am Jazz really is about a girl who is exploring her own identity and giving a neutral space to. And yes, I actually see some of you guys asking about the notes and the PowerPoints. I'll be sharing the slides towards the end of the presentation, so you guys can take the notes away with you. And as usual, it's recorded and we'll be sending out the show notes tomorrow. And I will also link you guys to the books that Kaya wrote in the chat here. So this is a list of books that you can talk to your children and use to start a convo around gender. And on that note, I'm going to flip it over to Kaya, who's going to talk about promoting diversity in the classroom through ability. So Kaya, take it away.
Thank you so much, Carmen. So I'm Kaya, and my section here, I'm going to be talking on different abilities. I chose to use the language abilities rather than disabilities, just as an all-encompassing term. When you think of the word disabilities, it kind of has a disadvantage to it. Just because someone is differently able does not mean that they necessarily have a disadvantage. They just do things differently. So the language I'm using in my slides today, I chose to use the word abilities. So when you are talking to children about different abilities, it's really important to lead by example and model inclusive and appropriate behavior. So using the person first language, read up on terminology. Some of it may have changed from when you were in school or things that you learned when you were studying, and really nip those outdated and politically incorrect terms right away. As soon as you hear it from a child, it's really important to, take that child aside without embarrassing them and just have a conversation. That's is what is really going to start that conversation, and just, direct them that this is not, a nice word to use. This is the word that we use instead, etc. And also just making helpful and gentle corrections. Um, Embrace similarities and differences. When you look in a classroom, no two people really look alike or, have the same abilities. So really help children understand that individuals with different abilities love the same things that they love, and that they can do the same things that they do, just in a bit of a different way. Also, what we grew up knowing about things like ADHD, anxiety, autism, etc., may be different from what is true. I mean, myself, when I was researching for this presentation, I was learning things like about ADHD, anxiety, autism, etc. So, brush up on some facts yourself, so you can be prepared for those questions and conversations that children may have, and also just support those children who you may come across in your day-to-day life or in your classroom. Just be prepared. And lastly, have a serious conversation about bullying. By educating your children, they can be part of the solution and help make the world a safer, friendlier place for everyone. As soon as you see that bullying start, we're so quick to, stop the bullying in the place. And it goes about race, it goes about gender, and it goes about different abilities as well. This is something that I found when I was doing some research. I'll read it out loud here in case the font is a little bit small for some folks. So it says, very young children may not understand that a disability is not a sickness. Furthermore, they may think that a disability is something they can catch, like the flu. This chain of thought can lead to bullying behavior, even if just as social avoidance. If you notice that your child is hesitant to approach someone who looks or acts differently than them, this is a great opportunity to have a meaningful conversation. I found this quote and this photo online. I just thought that was it resonated with me so much, because I think there's a lot of beliefs out there that people may have about, catching a different ability or disability. And I think, right away, if a child is a little bit afraid of another child's walker or wheelchair, or wants to go pet one of the guide dogs, something like that, that is a perfect learning opportunity, and something that we should, really, really lean into. And that's a great teachable moment. How to support children with special needs. So I'm sure some of us have some children who have visible special needs and different abilities in our classroom. Some they might be there and we're not fully aware of it, or maybe they haven't fully emerged yet. So I have some tips in here on how to support children with different needs. Some common misconceptions: re-examine your own beliefs. Things like all people with ADHD are just full of energy all the time. All people with autism are geniuses and high functioning. People with Tourette's can't hold jobs in public eye because all they do is stutter. These are common misconceptions that perhaps some of them maybe we believed when we were younger at one point or another. So I think it's very important to do your own research and learn about them, and teach others and encourage others to do their own research as well. See the child first. I think this is super important as well. Just like any other child in your class, build that relationship with the child, learn about them as a child and their needs and their development, and support them, because at the end of the day, they're a child. Also, to make simple changes if you can. Really reflect on your classroom. And right now, I think is a really great opportunity to really look at your classroom. Might have less kids in it or no kids at all. If you are able to go into your classroom, look at it, maybe with regards to routines, different peers, noise levels, materials, etc. Take a look at your teaching style, workload, expectations of the children, and get an outsider's perspective if you can, because that's going to be really beneficial to children, because everyone learns differently and you're creating that learning environment. This is a really great opportunity to make those simple changes. And if you are lucky enough to have a specialist, take advantage of them. There's many different community programs where they're subsidized or fully covered. If you have the funding, take advantage of it. They're full of knowledge, tips, and tricks that can help you assess your classroom and the environment and help the child reach their full potential. And if you're not, use your resources, use your other educator friends, scour the internet. There's so many great resources available free online that you can easily find with a quick Google search. So really use the internet to your advantage. And some books that I found, and I do just want to make a point here, is really interesting when I was trying to find different books on like Amazon and Goodreads when I was searching about different abilities. I think it's something that's not really talked about a lot. So when I was looking for these books, they didn't always exist on Amazon, or they didn't have a lot of reviews compared to when I was researching books about race and gender, because I find like those might be really hot topics right now. And this is something that abilities we need to talk about more, and we really need to embrace this, and we need to have books. We need to have research and information on this to help children with this. So just a small interesting point, when I was doing a bit of my own research for books, it was kind of hard to find some books. But here are some ones that I found, and a lot of these are true stories. Temple Grandin up in the top left corner there, based on a true story. Phenomenal story. She has autism, and she's just has a wonderful story. One's about Down syndrome. This one here has a child, like real life photos, which kids can easily relate to, versus cartoon photos. So lots of books out there. And also some different activities. Not sure if anyone has done this activity here in the top left corner. You say, let's see if I can say this properly. You say the color that the word is. So the first one would be green. Second one would be red. It's a little bit tricky, but sometimes this is how people think. It takes them a little bit longer to think about these things. So these are really good exercises to maybe give your classroom, your kiddos, if your children are old enough to start thinking that people think different ways. They have different abilities. They do things differently, and this might be one of the ways. I took a blurry image of a classroom. This is how some children who have visual impairments, this is how they see and how difficult that might be. And children might start to sympathize with the other children, like, oh my goodness, that is hard to see. Maybe I should be a little bit, nicer to that child. There's like free printables online, which I personally used in my classroom for children who are not as verbal. There's like images that you can print off that they could just point to instead, lots of different resources, and also an accessible playground. Wouldn't that be amazing if all of our playgrounds were like this? They were accessible. So just a few resources there. And a couple extra thoughts I wanted to throw in here. I think it's very important. Some developmental delays might not display themselves until later in life. So if you have an inkling or you have a feeling, check in on what might be displaying itself. Don't necessarily brush it away just because the child is a bit too young. But at the same time, we tend to overprescribe. So remember, kids take time to think and do things. As an adult, 2 + 2 is 4. It takes 1 second to do, but a child who's learning math, learning their numbers, it takes them a little bit of time. So just be wary of that it takes kids time to do certain things. And children with developmental delays or different physical abilities may experience things differently. No two people are alike. So because you have one person with autism here and you happen to have another person with autism here, does not mean that they're having the same experience. All right, and I'm hopping into the next slide on including parents. I'm just going to take a sip of water. Okay, so including parents in the conversation. So first and foremost, have an open conversation with your parents. This can be a bit tricky. I know a lot of us have experience with this, and it might be a little bit tricky, but be prepared to talk to the parents who do not understand or might be in denial. Going into a conversation with an idea that parents may be in denial or may become overwhelmed will help keep you prepared for their reaction. Protect yourself and your team and share your mutual care for your child. You're going into this conversation with a parent, whether it's the first, the fifth, the 500th conversation, that you both have that mutual ground, that you care about the child. Secondly, gather evidence that you may think a child in your classroom may need a little bit more assistance. State the child's strengths and what they need to work on. If you're able to do like a report card or like a running record or something like that, you know, having a little bit of evidence might help bring some light into the situation for some parents. Stay positive and proactive and build that trust with the family. Sometimes the educator may notice early signs of a learning disability. They're with them most of the day, if not the full day. And bringing up to parents can be hard, especially if they're not supportive. If you try to have a conversation and it's not successful, give it some time, come back again, and provide resources to those families. If the family still won't budge to accept, listen, or learn, then all we can do as educators is to make the most of the time in the classroom and provide a safe space for that child. I personally have been in that situation where, unfortunately, the families were just in denial about a child's different learning abilities, and they weren't willing to, you know, use the free resources that we were providing them. All we can do at the end of the day is just give them the best opportunities at school and in the center. And lastly, start the conversation and keep it going. It can become a little bit disheartening to talk to a family who's in denial, questions your education and your experience, I know, or becomes very overprotective and worried. But the key is to keep the conversation going. Comment on the child's strengths, how you've seen the child progress, and any concerns you and your team may have. This ongoing communication will help make the dialogue easier if and when you have to talk to them to have the child evaluated by a special education team as well. So keep that conversation going. What you're doing as an educator is super important and valuable. Creating an inviting space that is non-judgmental. So if you're having these conversations, let's have them in larger settings as well, if we're able to. Some things that you can do as an educator is do your homework on different abilities, genders, races, cultures, and present them at maybe an open house, if it's virtual or in person, or a parent-teacher night, or a workshop even. By having larger meetings, this will actually help parents who may be marginalized feel less alienated by covering a variety of topics in one session as well. Show off your inclusive and welcoming classroom. I mentioned earlier, maybe take an outsider's perspective on your classroom and some changes that you can make. If the changes in your classroom are needed, make them and show them off to your families. By keeping families informed of how you're supporting their children and all children with different abilities and experiences, this will give them the peace of mind and perhaps allow them to make changes at their homes as well, for their child or a child's friends of different abilities or backgrounds. It's a little bit of a domino effect. Show your vulnerability and model curiosity as well. This one goes right back to the beginning. Opening up about your own experiences, biases, thoughts, etc. will help other educators and families, and especially those families, feel welcome to do the same as well. If you hold an information session or workshop, state right from the get-go that this is a safe and welcoming space. All questions are welcome, and be true to that. Hold your word. Lastly, all this ties back to family and community. Making every child and family feel important in the classroom is an excellent way to encourage your students and families to understand and to respect the value of all families, and not just the ones that look similar to their own families. And create opportunities for parents as well and families. Look into some free resources. At Hi Mama, we have lots of resources as well, lots of different activities, which Carmen and Ria were putting into the chat. Unfortunately, not all families and centers can afford the extra help needed to support marginalized groups and children with different abilities. So check with your state or provincial early childhood licensing website. They offer a lot online. I was doing a little bit of research on the different state and provinces, and there's a lot available online for free, as well as financial assistance, calendars of free trainings, or maybe even some book lists, which we put up there earlier, or other classroom resources. So expand your network and use your networking capabilities to their maximum potential. Invite families to share their own experience. So like I mentioned before, not all families will be comfortable sharing, especially in person, but having someone speak firsthand about their experience with racism, being an immigrant, raising a child with Down syndrome, someone from the LGBTQ2S community can help teach more than words and your research ever will. So if you're able to get those people to present, what it's really like to be in their shoes, that is so, so impactful. So use that if you can, use your resources. And host events to show up different experiences. I know right now we can't get physically close to one another, and certainly not in large groups right now, but take the opportunity to host events that showcase different cultures. You could do a family cookbook, I know we mentioned before, a show and tell day, make it digital if you can. This not only models to the children to embrace different cultures, identities, and abilities, but it may help other families as well. Okay, I think we wanted to open up the floor to audience questions.
Totally. And I actually was just saying, Kaya, to Carmen here in the background, we've had so many great pieces of, I want to say, advice and just points of view and perspective from everyone's experience here, that so much so I kind of want to cut that part a little bit. And I want to talk a little bit more about some of those things that people have been saying. And I actually want to acknowledge a couple of people that way, because I think it's huge. It's huge right now. This is not easy for any educator right now. We've also just thrown out a lot of information to you guys. So please, if you have some experience you want to share with us in the chat about diversity, about race, about gender, about, how you're supporting your classroom right now, pop it in there. Kaya's probably going to have her eyes on it. Carmen has her eyes on it. I've got a couple of pieces here. So, and if you've been with me before, and Kaya's about to laugh, everyone. If you've been with me before, I'm the worst with names. So I do apologize in advance if I say your name wrong. I'm very, very sorry. Joyce, you were saying sometimes when you guys talk about race, when you guys talk about diversity, you end up drawing the children's attentions to differences that may not have been noticed before. That's an area where, you need to work on, I don't want to say tread lightly. You need to work with your families as well as yourself and that child to turn the knob a little bit, as well as to notice that, yes, we might have differences, but we're all the same on the inside, and providing that safe spaces. I think we've kind of all set across the board, actually. Michelle, you guys have parties. Can we come? I think I'd love to be there 2 to 3 times a year, and the parents bring in a dish from their country and you guys make flags with the children, and we love it. I'm totally in. Send me the next invite. I'll be there. Maybe not post-COVID. The food part I love, like, Diane, children are so innocent. I totally agree. So when teaching moments, remember that the teacher, it's teachable right in that moment. That is so true. For everything Kaya's been saying, everything Carmen said, everything I said, it is so, so true. LaShawn, you've had nannies for some of your children. They've come in, they bring their food dishes from their countries when doing all around the world studies, and the children love it. I'm down. I totally will be there as well. Kira, your biggest challenge, recognizing when we are unintentionally exclusive so we can make an adjustment in the moment. That's huge. I was talking about a moment before when I was talking about, children coming up into my classroom. I've been that teacher. I won't be shy to say I was definitely that teacher who took on the judgment from another teacher. And I learned from that. And that's why I wanted to share that moment. I don't know, Kaya, if you've had any moments when you were teaching similar to that, or when it came to inclusivity about parents, but it's definitely been something I've had in the past. Do you want to add, Kaya, anything, or?
Yeah, sorry, I just want to make sure I understand the question there. I was in the chat, I'm not gonna lie. What were you asking there?
So have you had it's all good. Have you had any experiences when it comes to learning a little bit about your own bias and realizing that you're being a little exclusive within your own classroom?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since I've been in the classroom, but something that always resonated with me was in my second year placement. I was in a toddler room, and I remember choosing some materials from the storage closet. I think it was in dramatic play, and choosing just dolls, just needed some baby dolls, and put them in the dramatic center. And my placement teacher, mentioned, you want to make sure you're choosing your materials thoughtfully. You're not just grabbing pencil, you're not just grabbing paper. You need to actually think about your materials and make sure that they represent the children. So for example, the dolls that I was using, for example, happened to just be, you know, of light skin. And I was like, oh my goodness, I need to do better work from that, because the center that I was in had a lot of marginalized families in it, and that's not representative of them. So making sure that when you choose your materials, whether it's, you know, the colored paper, the colored pencils, the dolls that's in the center, the pictures you put up, making sure that it represents, and really being thoughtful with that. So that's something that really resonated with me personally.
That's totally something I feel like we take for granted almost in the classroom some days. I've seen a lot of great things coming through the chat. I also want to say thank you to all the thank yous we've been getting. And I think I want to just touch a little bit base here before we move on and close up for the afternoon here. Tony, you're saying, yeah, there's a fine line to what educators can say to a child that is asking about boys marrying boys or girls marrying girls or whatever you like. You don't know what the family beliefs are. That's where obviously your relationship with families is important. Obviously, you don't want to overstep a bound that is not yours to do. I'd ask the child, so this is carrying on from Tony here, ask the child what they think, they suggest that they ask their mommy and daddy about it. You want to be respectful of the children and their family. I totally agree. And Kaya said this, and I want to echo it again, that trust, that relationship, it's huge. And knowing that your classroom is your safe space as well as the children's safe space, but your parents' safe space. Like, I think that's something we almost forget, that parents do look to you as well when it comes to being able to get out information that some parents are just a little scared, and I don't blame them. So it's a lot right now, a lot to take in. I want to make sure that we have enough time here, because Kaya is going to talk a little bit about our social media in a minute. Carmen's going to put the certificates up for you to get. So if you do want a certificate, they're going to be in the file section here. You can download it, the slides, everything. But just so you know, everything is recorded. You will get all the show notes, everything like that sent out to you tomorrow. So if you do miss the certificate now, it will come tomorrow as well. You can save it as a PDF, pop in your name, and you'll be good to go for submitting that onto your employer and everything like that. Carmen, I feel like I stole your show here. There is a survey. We want to hear from you. We've been doing these for a little while. We want to make sure we are covering all the boxes, that we've checked off everything for you guys. We want to make sure we're delivering material you're looking for. So please take some time at the end to fill out the survey. It's going to be in the little like blue sticky box across the top with everything there. Like I mentioned, show notes tomorrow. Next week, we're bringing Missy back, folks. I'm super pumped. Kaya's smiling because she knows we love Missy here at Hi Mama. It's fantastic. She is an amazing woman who we've actually been working on with for a little while. We had her on not too long ago now. And we're going to bring her back. She's got some hacks for everyone since she's been open that she's been finding are helpful since reopening, and of course, you know, dealing with COVID. I think we forgot about, I don't know about Kaya, I forgot about COVID for about an hour. No, Kaya didn't, sorry, man. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's really nice to hear. Kaya, talk to us a little bit more about social media.
Thank you, Ria. So I am shamelessly promoting our social media here. If you have Facebook or Instagram, we're on Pinterest even. This is a great place to continue the conversation, get ideas for our for different activities. I know we've been posting some of them in the chat here, but if you're ever looking for quick videos, sensory activities, gross motor, etc., we put them up on our Facebook and our Instagram. They're also available on our Pinterest with lots of different free printables, which we know educators love. And as well, HiMama.com, our activity database is there full of free resources. You do not need to be a customer. Pop in there. There's lots of activities. We do 5 to 7 new activities every week. They're all there with the instructions, printables, pictures, videos, everything. It's super easy. So pass it on to your educator friends. And if you're interested in joining the Hi Mama family, you can do that through HiMama.com as well.
Very, very cool. Carmen, do you want any last words? I stole Carmen's show here at the end, folks. I was like, oh no, I just jumped in right into it. Now, no, Carmen's probably all right with it.
No, don't worry. That flowed perfectly. And again, thanks so much, everyone, for spending your hour with us. We are working on a few new and different things that are coming up on the docket. So make sure to follow us on social media, and we'd love to connect with you. So if you could take 2 minutes to fill out that survey over there, we're taking a lot of ideas for what you want to hear from us. And we're here to serve you. We'll be here same time next week, and we're looking forward to seeing you guys again.
Thanks
Have a
for
good
coming,
one.
everyone. Thank you, Kaya and Carmen, for being on with me today. It was such a pleasure. From everyone here at Hi Mama, stay healthy, stay happy, stay safe, and we'll see you next Thursday.
We will.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.